Welcome to the Author Show, where we present new authors and books. From fiction to self-help and everything in between, you'll find it all here. To watch the TV version of our program, visit authorswebtv.com. That's authorswebtv.com. And now, let the show begin.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Don McCauley. Today we're welcoming to the program author R.G. Bud Phelps, and Bud is the author of Piano Meadows. Bud was born in Gibbon, Nebraska. He was in the Navy from 51 to 55. He graduated from the University of Denver in 1958, and he was involved in accounting and management for various types of businesses for approximately 50 years. He now writes books. Bud, how are you?
I'm fine, Don. How about yourself this morning?
Good. Well, let's start with the big question. Tell us about this book, please.
This book is written about the historical significance of being pioneers in both the 1870s, which were Mormons and gold seekers, and the normal young family that was seeking something different in the 1970s.
Now, who did you write your book for specifically?
I wrote Piano Meadows for teenagers through seniors because of the historical significance found from all three groups featured. I felt this broad group would find it interesting to follow a young cowboy seeking his fortune through the Pikes Peak gold rush in the 1870s, along with the silver discoveries in Leadville, Colorado. This expanded group of readers would also enjoy the 1870s adventures of the three Mormon families had on their trek to Salt Lake City. And finally, the 1970s adventures that a family with three young daughters had because of their move up into the mountains of Colorado. Piano Meadows is a wholesome book that can be enjoyed by all age groups.
Now, would you say there's any type of central message or perhaps underlying theme that you could say runs throughout the book?
I really think that the central message in Piano Meadows is how the pioneer spirit is shown both in the meadow and in the Colorado Rockies and the travels of the two 1870s group.
If you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea you're sharing in this book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
I feel that the single most important idea I'm sharing in Piano Meadows is how each group exemplifies their pioneering spirit throughout the story.
If you could compare your book with any book out there we might already be familiar with, which book would it be and why?
I think that Piano Meadows compares to a book like Zane Grey would have written and the Riders of the Purple Sage when he touches on the pioneer's trek to Salt Lake City. It's just full of the pioneering spirit, whether it's the young man seeking gold, the three Mormon families waiting for their trek to Salt Lake City over the winter, and the young family that just moved up Colorado mountains from Denver.
Give us more about the storyline of Piano Meadows.
The storyline is interesting. I started thinking about the time in the 1970s when we lived in Colorado while I was reading that Zane Grey book. And I thought, it would be interesting if I had a parallel story of three groups, a young man seeking gold, three Mormon families wintering in Colorado on their way to Salt Lake City. And it just was a joy to combine these three different groups in each chapter of the book, keeping the flow of whichever one they were, the Mormons, the young man seeking gold, or this new family that lived up in Conifer near Piano Meadows. It was a fun story to write, and it brought back a lot of the memories of my own family during the time I was writing it.
Now, is Piano Meadows about Christian or Mormon beliefs?
Piano Meadows is not about Christian or Mormon beliefs, but it's their pioneering spirit. That's what I was trying to capture. I didn't want to go into the weeds with trying to profess one religion over the other. I just wanted to show the pioneering spirit that was alive in all three.
What are the three groups covered in the book?
The three groups covered are the three Mormon families from Illinois on their way to Salt Lake City, and they decided to winter in Colorado, and they find this beautiful meadow to winter in. And then there was a young man that was coming from Ogallala, Nebraska, on his quest to seek gold in the Pikes Peak Gold Rush. This young man did meet the Mormon family on his way from Ogallala to Denver. And it was interesting that this young man was protective of how the Roughnecks were treating the Mormon family along the way.
Who does the young cowboy partner with in his search for gold?
This young cowboy's name was Joe, and Joe partners with one of the brothers of the Mormon leader that was wintering in Piano Meadows. And Joe had met him on the way up to Foxton, where he headquartered until he made his complete discoveries of gold or silver. And he met Tom and asked Tom over a winter whether he would be interested in joining him. And Tom did join him.
Who's William Bailey, and how is he important to these groups?
And when I was doing my research, Bailey, Colorado is not very far from Conifer, and it's kind of a kickoff point between going over the pass into South Park, and it was an interesting place. So as I was researching it, I found out that William Bailey settled Bailey, Colorado in 1864. He built a ranch house, a barns, and a stage station. And this stage station led him to building a small hotel with a dining room to feed the hungry travelers. Soon after, other pioneers were attracted to build cabins and outbuildings right there in Bailey, Colorado. The three Mormon families stopped at Bailey's ranch on their way to Salt Lake. And guess what? William Bailey, since of his information he received from his stage drivers, was able to route their journey through Grand Junction, and had a friend in Grand Junction that would route it the rest of the way to Salt Lake. So he was a very important part of their introduction on how they should travel, what trails they should take. And so that's where William Bailey came into the story.
Well, who's Horace Tabor, and how is he important to Joe and his partner?
Horace Tabor was known as the Silver King. And when I was researching information for the book, I found out that originally Horace Tabor just was a storekeeper and owned a store in Leadville and would supply goods for the prospectors, supplies and whatever they needed to survive while they were seeking gold. And one time when he was helping a prospector, the prospector didn't have enough money for all the supplies and gave him a deed to two little plots of mining interest, and he utilized those two plots, one of them to hire Joe actually, and to hire Joe and Tom to develop that claim. And that's where Horace came in. Horace Tabor ended up the Silver King, and one of the mine that Joe and Tom developed was a very wealth-producing mine. So it made not only Horace Tabor very wealthy, but it made Joe and Tom very wealthy also.
Who were the key Mormon icons that Joshua, the leader of the three families, met after arriving in Salt Lake City?
When Joshua pulled the wagon into Salt Lake City, the very first man that he met was William Staines. Mr. Staines was Brigham Young's gardener, and he was the one responsible for all of the orchards and vineyards. And he was attracted to Joshua because of Joshua's past history at working in orchards and vineyards back where he came from in Illinois. But then William Staines introduced him to Brigham Young, and Brigham Young suggested these three families, William Staines, take these three families up to meet Lorenzo Smith. Lorenzo Smith was the apostle that Brigham Young directed to develop the Box Elder Creek area, which ended up Brigham City. Very interesting part of the story of what the three Mormons that wintered in Piano Meadows ended up doing in Brigham City. So it really tied in nice, the icons to the families that wintered in Piano Meadows.
What was the name of the church where the family from the 70s spent a lot of time?
The family spent most of every Sunday at the Conifer Community Church, as they would attend Sunday school first, then they would attend church, and usually, since it's a community church and it covers a wide mountain area, that they would have a potluck dinner. And then the afternoons were spent with the youth group. And this young couple that moved up from Denver were the couple chosen to lead the youth group, and that their 3 daughters attended. Therefore, each Sunday was spent at the church.
Where can readers find out more about you and your book?
Readers can find information about me and my books on my website, budsbooks.com, or at Amazon on my author page. All of my books are listed there with a good description and a good built-in story about the books. My book is also distributed through Ingram Book Distributing to major bookstores throughout the country, such as Barnes & Noble. A interested listener could go to any bookstore and they would find that my book was listed through Ingram Distributing, and they could order it for them, even if they didn't stock it.
Well, this has been just great. Our guest today has been R.G. Bud Phelps, and he is the author of Piano Meadows, among many other things. Bud, thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Don. It's been my pleasure.
This is Don McCauley, wrapping up another edition of The Author Show. Listen to some of your favorite authors every day, 24/7, by visiting theauthorshow.com. Just click on the book title in the player at the top of the page. These interviews are available to book buyers worldwide on demand. If you'd like to be a guest on the show and feel you could benefit by getting in front of your target audience with a high-quality media interview that'll make a real impact, visit www.theauthorshow.com, fill out the form, and we may be contacting you shortly. Join us here next time for another great book and another exciting author on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. To contact us, call toll-free 1-877-955-8800. That's 877-55-8800. Or visit theauthorshow.com, theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.